Hi, welcome back to another episode of Coldstream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. This week we're going to be working on the deck lid and the hinging it up on the two 5-window coupes. I've done some work so far. Actually, deck lid, boot lid, I guess depending on where you are in the world. Some parts of the world it's called a boot, and here it's called a trunk. So far what I've done, I've put the inner deck lid on the inside of the skin. And what you have to do is basically skin it. So what happens is the sheet metal comes up over it, this inner deck lid goes inside, and then you have to basically use a hammer and then knock the skin over and roll the skin back on itself. So I started basically clamping the four corners here, there, and there with some little F clamps, or you can use vice grips. Don't use a little piece of paper on the outside here if you use vice grips, because the teeth would mark it. I actually have some woodworking F clamps here. I use these to hold them in place, and you can put rubber or paper or something in between so it doesn't mark it. So hold it in place, and then using either a skinning hammer or another hammer, you basically bend and you tap the edges over on both ends, and you just keep working it until you can finally actually roll it right over. So you can see here where the metal's rolled right over the edge, and then up on the top section here's the same thing, and just work your way around. Then same thing happens with the side piece. To the point, and use a dolly. So basically, you know, your skinning hammer actually has an angled part onto here, so you can work your way around. That's what they're for. So that's done on one of the deck lids. The second deck lid, the gentleman has to actually, I've got a skin over there that was sitting outside, it's got to be cleaned up. He's got to send me another inner deck lid to fit up with that skin. I think we're going to get that skin probably louvered at my friend's place as well. So the next step onto it is on a deck lid, there's actually a bracket that goes on the inside of where the holes are. So there, that's what it looks like. I have one installed over here already. So what I did, I went onto the car and I measured where that hole was. The same way in the previous episode when I put the pins in place, I allowed for basically a 1/8 clearance on the top, and I drilled this hole first. Once I drilled that hole first, then I put this metal bracket in behind it, held it in place, or actually on top of it, pardon me. I put it on place, top of it like that, and then I drilled these two holes to put this in place. So over here on this side, you can see where I've got the hole drilled already. I'm going to carry on doing the same thing. I'll put that on the outside. I'll use a drill bit to hold it in place, and then I'll drill the other two holes and put this in, and then I'll continue fitting the deck lid or boot lid to the back of the 5-window coupes. as you can see from the time-lapse video, I finished putting the last piece, the reinforcing bar, whatever you want to call it, on the deck lid. Before I install the deck lid, I think I'm going to fix the rumble support brackets. So come on over here to the Moncton Coupe. These were the two pieces that were on the Moncton Coupe. I actually thought I could straighten them out. They actually were quite twisted and kind of broken. Maybe I can save them. Definitely can save the ones on the New York Coupe. So I took these off, and then I just decided, since I'm going to make a wooden pattern or wooden buck to fix the bottom of the New York Coupe, I might as well just make one to do the entire bracket and then cut off what I need. It's just easier. So here over in the bench, basically did the same thing as I did with a lot of the other things. I made this wooden pattern here, and I have made the first piece there. So that's one rumble bracket. I'm going to repeat the process. So I'm going to make up a couple more and probably a spare set. These I'll do, there's a left and a right. So I'll make these up for the Moncton Coupe and put them in, and then I'll make up bottom sections to fix here on the New York Coupe. So follow along as we keep on working on the two coupes. So here we are. I made up some extra brackets, some rumble brackets. I made a total of 2 sets, plus I made some feet because I'm going to make I made some repairs on the New York Coupe. So come on over here. I will show you where I put the rumble brackets onto the to Moncton Coupe. Don't have a hold open bracket for the deck lid, so I'll have to use this piece here. But both rumble brackets have been welded in. You can see the weld spots in the drip edge up here. This is where they were originally riveted in. So all I did basically was just drill the originals out and then spot weld them in place. And then on the floor, it's the same thing. Originally they were spot welded to the floor, so I just drilled 3/16 holes and I welded them in the same place. So although these rumble brackets this is not a rumble car. Even the cars that didn't have rumble seats still had the rumble brackets there. And I assume it's basically for rigidity in the back of the car. So the plan was to try and make these as original as possible, or as close to original as possible. So rumble brackets are in the Moncton Coupe here. Also, I took the time to install the deck lid. As I showed you, I had hammered the skin onto it, and we'd put the hinge pins in place. So right now the deck lid's in. It's not 100% perfect, but got a really decent gap across the bottom and pretty decent shape. I might have to tweak the sheet metal just a little bit to make it line up a little better. And then up on the top, same thing. We've got a pretty decent gap there. So the deck lid is on the Moncton Coupe. A little bit of, like I say, a little bit of fine tuning, but basically this is what the owner wanted me to do. And then over here on the New York Coupe, what I did was I basically made bottoms. I didn't make a full piece here, so the bottoms of the rumble lids were gone on this, but the brackets themselves were really decent. I didn't have to cut them out or anything. So essentially just make the bottom half of this, and then I just welded it in place here. And then the same thing across the floor, you know, drilled the 3/16 holes and spot welded it to the floor, just as close to what they would have done with an original one. So the plan for the New York Coupe essentially is I have a deck lid skin. The owner is going to send me an inner deck lid. But in the meantime, I'm going to clean up this deck skin here and take it to a friend's place. And we're going to louver the deck lid. Hopefully we can film it if he's not too shy on camera. But that'll be another episode of basically skinning the deck lid and putting the deck lid into the New York Coupe. I did take the deck lid that was on the Moncton Coupe and test fit it in here. So I know that I've got a pretty decent gap. So I'm really not expecting any problems with it. But that's it for this episode. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it was a lot of work fitting and making those pieces. So hopefully you enjoyed, learned something from it, and please like, share, tag, and subscribe. If you have any comments, please send them our way. We'll do our best to answer them, and everybody have a great week. Take care.